The American people, as you know, overwhelmingly support our legislation. It's not hard to understand why Americans feel this way. We're delivering on the things they care about.
Yes, Chuck, what the American people have been clamoring for is to make the IRS one of the largest government agencies in the federal government. We're so excited. My name's Eric. Welcome into Above My Pay Grade. As you've noticed, and my mustache. My wife got to me. Got home from my trip. Samson. Delila'd my mustache right off. So, the aptly named Inflation Reduction Act has passed. Let's take a peek and see if it will actually reduce inflation. So, one of the things it is touted to do, according to the bureaucrats, is tackling climate change. And I don't know in your life if spending money reduces spending, but that's what the government is saying. Inflation is more dollars chasing less goods and services, and more spending is going to lower that. Not so much. But governments have done things in the past, like the highway system, and we can argue about if another, outlet could have done that, like the interstates. But that increased productivity. Interstates did in the United States, and that was done by the federal government. Now, some people argue that tackling climate change is similar to the interstate highway system. And I would argue, if you're of the opinion that climate change is an existential threat, money is of no consequence, because we're all going to burn up by the sun monster. But if you're of the opinion, like these bureaucrats who are saying that increasing green energy will reduce inflation, I would ask you this: why aren't more people using solar and wind today? If it is cheaper and better, meaning something that would reduce inflation, something that is cheaper, more dense, better, why aren't the majority of Americans using it? If you could go to your average citizen and say, hey, I could lower your energy bill by X number of dollars. I don't know many people who wouldn't want to take that. The problem is it is not as dense as fossil fuels, and it is not cheaper. And so people don't convert to green energy. Again, they will not convert to green energy until it's better, more dense, and cheaper for the billionth time. So it could reduce greenhouse gases. It could, and that's a big maybe. But does it reduce inflation? I don't think so. These people are amazing. And it now allocates $87 billion to the IRS to have more IRS agents. Now, as you probably heard government bureaucrats say before, we need the 1% to pay their fair share. And assuming that they're the 1%, right? Why do you need to double the size of the IRS if we're only concentrating on the 1%? Methinks that you're concentrating on other people. So reading from this article on Zero Hedge, the IRS would become the largest federal employer, other than the DOD. And what do they plan to do with all this money? Do we really need to tell you, they ask. Democrats always talk about the need to go after the top 1%, this class warfare business, and make them pay their fair share. And you may have a solid argument that there are tax loopholes, and let me tell you this, those tax loopholes still exist. And I'm going to go over the federal tax income that the federal government has taken in every year. And that's the proof that there's tax loopholes, right? They're always touting that the top 1% have to pay their fair share. But we don't have so many 1% that we need 150,000 IRS agents. And the vast majority of the new revenue will come from families, and this is touted in the bill, families earning less than $200,000 a year. So prepare to get audited a lot. And this goes back to inflation reduction, which is the whole point of the act, which we all know is BS. But productivity decreases inflation. Think about it. If you have people who are working towards producing goods and services, if they have to take time away to deal with IRS agents, to hire CPAs, to hire attorneys, just to deal with the federal government and paying taxes, because the tax code is so complicated, does that increase or decrease productivity? It decreases it. And so this is just going to decrease productivity that much more. If you've ever been audited before, it's a real pain in the butt, right? And the truth of the matter is, the top 1%, the IRS knows that they have the ability and the lawyers to fight the IRS. Everybody else doesn't. So who are they going to go after, right? And the thing is, I've said this many times, you can go to 3 different CPAs at tax time and get 3 different end of what you owe or what the government owes you in taxes. You get 3 different answers. That's a problem. The tax code is not simple, and it's written to help politicians. And if you don't believe me, look up the Augusta Rule. That's one of my favorites. The Augusta Rule, written into the tax code to help one specific senator who wanted to rent out his house during the Augusta Masters Championship. You can't make it up. These people are insane. All right, so does this IRS thing reduce inflation? No, it's going to cost $87 billion. Will the federal government, and that's over multiple years, but will the federal government get $87 billion more in revenue? I think not. And here's why I think not. If you look, and I'll link this in the description below, if you look at federal tax revenue, this goes all throughout history. When the top bracket in taxes was 90%, when Trump lowered taxes, when Democrats raised taxes, all these different tax codes, the federal government takes in about the same amount of money every year. Every year. And why is that? I did a video long ago called, or about the Laffer curve. And there is a happy median between 0 and 100% taxes, right? If you tax 0, then federal government can't pay their bills. Might be a good thing. If you tax 100, no one's going to work, right? That's communism / socialism. So what is the happy median there? And if you tax too much, it disincentivizes people to work harder or to work more, because they do a cost-benefit analysis and they say, well, 75% of this money is going to the federal government, so I'll figure out ways, I'll set up trust funds, I'll do all kinds of things, move it offshore, just to avoid paying federal tax. And if you look at the the federal revenue, it's gone up every year, by the way, up every year. And yet we still run a deficit. Every single year the federal government makes more money in taxes, and yet they still run a deficit. Square that circle. They're always about reducing inflation, taxing the 1%, blah-de-blah-de-blah. But in reality, they make more every year because of inflation. They make more every year, and yet they still run a deficit. Could it be, and this may be a stretch, that the federal government is, and their spending is the problem? It is not the private sector. And you can make a very strong case that the 1% of people who get out of paying taxes, and there's a lot of nuance there, by the way. They may get out of federal income tax, but they're taxed in different ways. But the tax code is written in a way so that if you know it, people can profit from it. But in my opinion, this is going to increase inflation. Who would have thought the Inflation Reduction Act will increase inflation? More government spending, their idea will decrease inflation. Methinks not. Okay, take a look at how much the federal government has made in the link in the description. They make more every year, no matter what the tax code says. They make about the same as a percentage of GDP. And yet they still want to do this class warfare thing and probably take away from productivity with the IRS. It's awesome. All right, let me know what you think in the comments below. Sorry about shaving the stash. See you guys in the next one.